let's touch on a bit about because before you were a mum, I mean, you're still an artist, but before you were a mum, you were an artist. So I just wanted to
Mm.
head back a bit and just find out a bit more about what inspired your interest in animation and into the VFX industry.
Mine is a cheesy story, guys. Get ready to roll your eyes. Okay? Like hard. I picture this, the little girl who always drew. Like, we've got so many of those in our industry. It almost feels like we're copying each other's stories. But yeah, I was that kid who was always drawing. But I was that kid who was always drawing. I didn't know I wanted to do animation per se. I had it in my mind. My brothers were really into comic books. My brothers inspired me a lot growing up. My older brothers, they were big gamers, which made me a gamer because we all shared a room. So they were big into anime and manga. So I was big into anime and manga. They were big into Star Wars. So I was making lightsaber sounds from a very young age. I knew I wanted to draw, and in my head, the only thing I could think of was comic books. I was like, yeah, they need people who draw those superheroes and stuff, so maybe I'll do that. So I used to design superheroes and people with different powers, and just by chance, it would always go back to looking a bit like Rogue from X-Men because she was my favorite. So I didn't have many original ideas back then, but I had heart, all right? And then my eldest brother, I was kind of lucky in that I have siblings who are so much older than me. So he's 10 years older than me, which means he started working way before I did, which means he had a bit of side money. And he bought me a graphics tablet. We had a shared PC at home, but he bought me a graphics tablet, and he got me Flash 5.
Right.
And he got me, I've still got the book at my parents' house, but Flash for Dummies.
Right, yeah.
And I had every intention to use this to make a website, because that's what I knew Flash was used for back then. You also got to remember, I think this would have been the year 2000.
Yeah.
So not everyone had their own individual PCs and stuff, and I felt really lucky that my brothers were getting me all this stuff. And they would take me to museums, and they were so encouraging. Once they found out I really wanted to be an artist and do art, they would be like, all right, I'm going to take you to this museum. Like, they knew nothing about it, but they knew that they could take me places and try and help me as best they can. And so I was doing that, and I was figuring it out, and then it got to a page in the book of Flash for Dummies of keying a timeline, and I was like, all right. So I just drew a ball. Everyone starts with the ball. Drew a ball, went through the timeline, and I drew the ball in a different place, and the software did the rest of making the ball go zoop. And I was like, and it genuinely, oh my gosh, if I could say if there's any moments where I heard the angels sing and and there was a light that shone through my window at that moment of, and I was like, this is it. I made something move. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry if that deafened anyone, but I nearly cried. I think it just hit me so hard that I was so proud I made my drawing move. And then I was like, could I make a person move? And so, which is, by the way, I wouldn't say that should be your first animation test, going from bouncing ball straight to full walk cycle. I didn't do a walk cycle. I was big into anime, as you know. So in almost every anime intro, there is a beautiful girl, and her hair is blowing in the wind. Almost every anime, you're going to find someone's hair blowing in the wind. So I wanted to do hair blowing in the wind of this really cool character. I thought it was a cool character that I designed myself, and and I did that, and I made her hair blow in the wind. And what's beautiful about it is, back then I wouldn't know if this was any good or any bad. I just knew that I made it happen, and it made me really happy, and I was so proud, and I just wanted to show everyone. I couldn't upload things to the internet back then, so you had to come round to my PC, and I'd be like, look at this, it's so cool, and that feeling was like, wow, I have got to do this. Is all I can do now. I would take nothing else. And I would tell my teachers, and this was at secondary school, and they were like, oh, do you mean fashion design?
No.
Fashion design, there's nothing wrong with fashion design. I think it can be another beautiful form of expression, like anything. But to me, I was so offended I was like, no, this is not fashion.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, and because I said, I want to be in the film industry and I want to work on cartoons. And, you know, I was like, and they were like, oh, I'm not sure how you're going to do that in the UK, is what my teacher said, because everyone thinks Hollywood. Everyone thinks you have to be in America to do all these things. And I wish I could go back and find these teachers and be like, so
find them on LinkedIn.
Guess what I do? Yeah. But my school actually shut down shortly after I left, so it'd be really hard to track these people down for just to do a aha moment. I don't want to do that. But that was it. And then at least when I got to sixth form, you could do graphics design, which was kind of close. And I was like, all right, close enough. I got into that. I did art still. And then when I looked at uni courses, I looked for animation, and around the time, so this is around 2005 when I'm looking for uni courses, and I think there was like 4 major universities that did animation, and then there was Ravensbourne. And honestly, as bad as it sounds, I went to Ravensbourne because it was the furthest from my parents' house. So I needed a reason to move out. I was like, Mom, my school's too far. I have to move out. I really wanted that uni experience. So that is how I ended up at Ravensbourne. And that is not how you should choose your university course. That was my reason. You know, sweet little 18-year-old me had big dreams of moving out and having lots of fun and like doing art for fun. Oh man, I had to, and I lived those dreams. You know, it sounds really corny saying it out loud. But so then I did animation at Ravensbourne. At the time, the tutors were like, oh, you're probably all going to have to go into running first, because that was just what everyone did. There was no like internships that are about these days, which, by the way, well done, guys. That's awesome. All of you guys that can get in on an internship, that's awesome. Really go for the thing you want. Don't go for anything less, though. I think I was kind of too easygoing with letting people say, oh, you're really good at matchmove, and I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe I should keep doing this, even though in my head I was like, I really want to animate though, you know. So I wouldn't say I was shy, I was just easily swayed. And people were saying you're good at something, so your brain is like, oh cool, so I should do this thing I'm good at. But always shoot for what was the original dream. And that's why I'm so happy I still trained to be in animation. And okay, it took me a bit longer than other people, but I have background knowledge that other animators don't have sometimes. So when there's a problem with the camera, a problem with the body track, and sometimes it's so simple, like it's like, oh dude, you just bring in the camera again, like it's cool, don't worry. You know, like stuff like that but they haven't experienced it, they don't know the other departments. So and because I did a little bit in FX and a little bit in CFX, I've just got this all-encompassing view of what other departments need from me as an animator. But I'm really glad I'm able to come into the animation department with a little bit of knowledge from other departments. And I get to help people out with technical queries, or at least whose fault is this? I could be like, oh, do you know who could fix this? Or do you know blah, blah, blah. I still use matchmove tools to this day in animation. I still encourage people to understand body tracking better, because it's such an integral part of, if the tracks are wrong, it's all going to fall apart, guys. So like, we need to not only recognize the issues surrounding other departments, but if possible, help them, because we all want the show to be a success, right? We all want it. I really hate people blaming other people for stuff going wrong. It's like, that's great, it's really easy to blame, it's really hard to find a solution. So just be better and try and help.
What your thoughts are on Ranna's position as an entry into the industry, when you started, compared to how it is now? Like, what do you think about it? Like, as because it used to be like the main and pretty much the only way in. So I'm just
if you didn't have a reel, if you didn't have or like a really you know, weak reel at the time, you obviously needed more time to build a better reel, but you wanted to get in as soon as possible. It was brilliant at the time. It was also quite brutal. I don't know if running's the same as it was back then. We used to be like timed on our runs.
Oh, really?
So they knew the distance between companies, and if you took maybe 10 minutes too long, they'd be like, "So what happened?
All right.
Traffic?" Because you're running.
That's new to me.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Everyone I speak to of a different running generation has different stories. So much so that once I wanted to make a podcast just for runners, of runners' stories. However, I think they'd all be too afraid to tell their stories. So maybe the only way I'd get this done is people are really open to talking about bad things that happen. Not bad to them. I mean, like that I knew the runner who spilt coffee on Ridley Scott. That's awesome. But my thoughts on it was, it's a tricky one because everyone had different experiences, and I've met people who had unfortunately horrid experiences running, and just were treated like little servants. Sometimes, and then other people who were really embraced as runners and like, hey, I could show you this after work if you want, and you'd be like, oh yes please, and really people who would take runners under their wings and under their wing rather, and show them some really cool things, and that's good. These days, as far as I'm aware, I think running positions are solely for people who want to go into production.
Right.
So as far as I'm aware, at least for some of the major companies I've spoken to, they want you to go into production. So if you want to be an artist, I think they're more encouraging you these days to go towards the internships, work towards getting your reel really strong and just jumping in straight away as an artist. Unfortunately, if you do that, like say I'm someone who wants to be a lighter and I went straight into lighting as a junior lighter. First of all, congratulations, well done that you had your goal and you met it. But secondly, you might not have the great experience of meeting people from the entire company. So as a runner, I was speaking to the CEOs right down to the bar staff, right down to the every artist, the commercials people, the film people, the colorists, which I never would have known what that job is. When I walked in there, I was like, what are you doing?
So,
this is some fancy setup you've got. Like, it looked like Star Trek to me. I was like, wow. Really shiny buttons. Can I push one? And then they have all these massive screens. So I got to learn what all the roles were because of being a runner and just chatting to people. And because you're a runner, there's kind of no shame of being like, so what do you do? Whereas when you're an artist, you might feel a bit embarrassed going, so what do you do? And it's like an integral part of the company. And you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. There should be no shame in that either, though. But as a runner, you do have this freedom of like, look, everyone just sees you as a runner. So ask a billion questions. And it's okay to have a bit of a laugh as well, and you still kind of feel like you're in uni a bit, depending on the relationship you have with the other runners. We had a really cool team who like we still to this day would hug each other if we saw each other in the street and stuff, because you're brothers in arms at that point.
Definitely.
Okay. And I've got loads of funny runner stories that like are cringe now, but I don't regret my running story. I know some people maybe regret how long they were a runner for. That is the difference, I think, because I've met people who were only a runner for 3 months, had an amazing experience, got promoted, someone saw a skill there, a talent, or something. If you are a runner and you want to get promoted quick, do something to make that happen. Do not wait your turn. That's what I see. And I've heard a lot of people are waiting their turn. And when I say that, I mean that they're like, oh, but, Bill's been here for longer than me, so he's the next one who's going to get promoted. And that's just not how it works in VFX. It really is, you can get someone who's your lead who has technically been doing this for less time than you. And why is that? Maybe they showed something. They showed real leadership on a show, or they showed that they tackled something really difficult and they went and sorted it out themselves with the other department or with the VFX soup, or and it's the same if you're a runner and you want to be doing X, Y, and Z. Then what are you how are you presenting that to people? Because they don't know. They haven't got like a profile on you and like, oh yeah, Christina wants to be an animator. That was my biggest mistake. No one knew I wanted to be an animator. I was kind of that person. I'm just happy to be here. I was like, why, girl? When I look back, I'm like, oh man. But you know, you live and learn, and I don't regret my experience because I got to meet so many people and learn about all aspects of the pipeline, what everyone does and why they do it, and it means so much to just have a understanding of that, and that I could do it whilst I was young and was allowed to be a bit naive and you know, allowed to trial different things as well, because I was still there like maybe modeling. You know, you don't know. I didn't know I was terrible at modeling and still am. Do not make me do it. Proxy Geo is as far as I go. And even that, people are like, she did okay. You know, like, so it really is, something has to move for me to be good at it. So I would recommend, I think just double check for me, but I'm pretty sure right now to go into running they want you to be in production, but I think they also fast track that now. I'm not sure, you know, you might hear some horror stories. There were people who were a runner for like 2 years plus. They're doing great now, by the way. They're still, all these people I knew, they're like leads. Their career has not suffered. I think people think there's a timeline for some reason. There's like, if I'm not a lead by the time I'm 30, like, guys, it's cool, chill. You will be working, hopefully, if you're healthy and fit, you'll be working for a long time, and enjoy the ride, enjoy the shows, because each one has taught me something. Even the really bad shows taught me a new skill somehow, made me better, made me more efficient at my work, made me think about my work in a different way, maybe because maybe there was limitations on that show. Especially once I started working for TV, they don't have as much money as film productions. Not all of them. We can't all be Game of Thrones, you know. But so you've got a limitation of like, that's a great idea. The client can't afford it. Don't do that. And you're like, but it was a great idea. So how are you going to work around that to still make this a really interesting shot? But you are limited and stuff. So each show, no matter how good or bad, will teach you something, and enjoy the ride. You know, I was a matchmove lead. I don't really want to be a lead personally anymore, because the stress for me, for my personality type, didn't work for my body. My body was like, I can't handle this. But I really love being an artist. And who knows, maybe one day. But for runners starting out, I would look at the internships. I would look at strengthening your reel as best you can. If that means that you need to take a little side job at M&S whilst you're working and doing other courses online, don't worry, there's no judgment. I know a guy who's a lighter who went from working at a pub to being a lighter, you know, so he doesn't even have the degree. If you've got the talent, and also the mindset is so much more important, because I don't believe sometimes that I'm naturally talented. I always feel like I had to scrape and claw for each and every bit of skill I got. So, you know, if you feel like you're one of those people too, it's fine. There's, you know, you can work at your skills and be film ready, TV ready, commercial ready. If you want to go into production, it's the only thing I can't really advise that much about. Other than I do know a lot of a lot of runner positions now are specifically for people who want to go into running, into production, excuse me. So definitely look into that, especially the big companies. If you want to be a runner who is straight away made an artist, not straight away made an artist, but like, you know, you want to do it more my way, I would look at the smaller companies and the mid-sized companies. Their runners get to do hands-on work. They might even get you to work on a few shots. That's really cool in the beginning, and that's your in, you know, that's your opening into being an artist. You can start building a reel with actual production work on it. You're in, mate. You've done great. The big companies are a bit more of a politics game, and that's fine if you're aware of it. I've worked at the big companies. I love the big companies. I've worked at the little ones. I love them too. It really, you can learn so much from both. And both are good for different reasons. So when I've worked at little companies, I get to do a bit of other things. You might, you know, get to test out. You might get to go on set, stuff like that. That's really cool. And in the big companies, you've got more of a security because you're a bigger team. So you have loads of seniors to get advice from. You've got a lead, you might not always have a lead. I haven't always had a lead. Big companies, you're kind of guaranteed to have a lead, to have that person before you go into dailies. You can double check your shot if you're nervous about it. If you feel it can be pushed more, that's what your lead's for. And they should be there to help you get it to the best possible state before you show it to anyone, if that's how you feel. Yeah, so I think that wraps up my runner answer.
That's great. Yeah, no, I was having a look at your filmography, if you'd say, and it's
my filmography.
Is that and it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a word.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love my I'm super proud of my credits.
Yeah. You've worked on some incredible, amazing movies. It's incredible.
Thank you. All of them have a tale to tell. Like, I would still say one of my favorite things I've worked on, maybe because of the crew, was actually Guardians 1.
Okay.
So Guardians of the Galaxy 1, and that was because all the other Marvel films were out and doing really well, and everyone knows those superheroes, and then we all got put onto Guardians, and unless you're a true diehard fan, a lot of us were like, what is this? There's like a tree, there's a kind of thing. But because of that, it was the funnest show to work on, and everyone I speak to about it as well, they're like, yeah, that was a really fun show. For some reason, it was hard. There was one of the hardest body tracks I've ever done was on that show, and that was when I don't know if you've seen it, if you remember when Karina grabs the it's not the Mind Stone, which is the pink one, the pink stone.
I'm not sure,
but it's the one that the Collector had. Basically, the Collector had in his thing, and his little slave pink woman, Karina, she grabs it and it explodes. You know, the power runs up her arm, and she screams, and you see it through her mouth, and then she explodes basically. And that track, I had like a crowd watching me do this, because it's like she was shaking the whole time, man, and her veins and stuff were coming out. It was the hardest track I've ever done. But it was so much fun, and the team were awesome, and that's when I first had some mentees as well. It was my first time training people, and I really loved it. I really loved watching them get better, and you'd be there like, I taught them how to do that. You're so proud. And it was just such a cool team, and it was a fun show. And then to go see it in the cinema, and it is a thing, you should prepare yourself. I try not to think the film I'm working on is going to be amazing, because then you might go into the cinema and you're like, it's a really crap film. We did great work on it, but
overall,
as a whole, it's not a great film. And I've had that for a few of the things I've worked on. But Guardians, we went into the cinema for the cast and crew, and I walked out like, I'm so proud of us guys. That was such great work. Everything, all the shots were beautiful. The film itself was fun. The soundtrack was awesome. We loved it. One of my funnest shows. And even though I didn't get to do animation for that one, which I would have loved to be one of the people with Team Rocket on their reel, but for the maybe next time, maybe in the future. I'm doing pretty cool things with monsters and stuff now, so I'm making up for all those times. But you know how cool it is that Deathly Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows was my first film. I was a Harry Potter fangirl and nearly wanted to cry. I could not believe it. Are you crazy? I still get people to this day you worked on Harry Potter, and I'm still there I know, I don't know. I'm not humble about it. I'm like, I know, right?
How did you manage your NDA when you found out you're gonna work on it as a fangirl?
Well, yeah, no, that's true. Luckily, I've never been big on social media and stuff like that. I think I am now, the older I get, than I was back in the early days, purely because I was working so much. You couldn't, I didn't have time to do any of that stuff. Obviously told my brothers, you're allowed to tell family and stuff. You're not allowed to show them anything, but I told them, and that was cool enough. And waiting for my showreel for that first film, even though technically, if you saw my showreel from Deathly Hallows Part 1, I was a junior. I had just passed my training, so my shots were the easiest shots in the world. But did I care? No, because Voldemort's in my shot. I don't give
Yeah,
a damn.
exactly.
I was so
Yeah.
proud, so proud. And you need those little wins. Be excited about the stupid things. You don't have to always have the most artistically difficult shots to be proud of them. Sometimes you can be proud of them because you remember it was a challenging time at the job and you can't believe we got these shots out. Sometimes because even if the shot wasn't, not like one of the flashiest money shots, you worked really hard on it and it looks good. Well done. So I love that stuff. I've done a lot of Marvel. I've done a lot of superheroes. So every time I get to do quirky little shows, I say little, like maybe just more indie based, those can actually be more fulfilling as an artist, especially like animation. Like I worked on Under the Skin as a matchmove artist, and that can be seen as quite an indie film. I had such a cool time. The people on that show it was like such a small team for one. It was at One of Us. It was like 5 to 10 people, 5 people in my room, and they were the 3D team. Way more compers on that show than 3D. But I just got hired to do the match move for that and the body track, and then they were like, well, we don't have an animator. Do you want to animate the alien part when I'm so sorry if you haven't seen it. Spoiler alert, Scarlett Johansson's an alien, and she removes her head, and she's all naked in the forest. She removes her head, and then that little head movement, that's me. That's my first animation bit. And technically speaking, not difficult animation, but I'm so proud of that shot because I did the match move, the camera, the body track, and then the animation. So I was so proud. It was so cool to like be able to that they weren't like, oh, I'm not sure if you can animate. They genuinely just went, do you want to try animating? And I was like, yes, please. Can I? So those shows are really fulfilling. A lot of TV shows are like I did at DNEG TV, I did a show called, oh my gosh, The Rook. There we go, The Rook. And there's just one sequence I worked on, and it was a little bird in a cage. And I maybe you think working on the same bird in a cage for 6 weeks sounds not that cool. To me, I was like, I got a whole sequence to myself? Are you kidding me? Like, that hadn't happened before. I could show you on my reel if these are one of the reels that I have to lock. The ones that you aren't allowed to, you have to password protect. So maybe I can send you an invite later to show you, but I could show you the whole sequence. And all of that bird struggling, it was struggling. It was being controlled by a woman who was like a form of telekinesis, but she uses like electricity. So we all have a bit of electricity in us. And that's how she was controlling this bird. And it was like she didn't. The difficulty was she didn't want to hurt the bird. So don't make the bird look in pain, but make it look like it's struggling. It's definitely being controlled. So she was just making it spread its wings. But there was resistance because she's still learning. This was her learning to use her powers. And just that whole sequence of this bird being a happy bird in a cage to like, whoa. And then it started resisting. And I loved it. I love those shots. I love how much I had to think about it in different ways. That, okay, it's not in pain, but it is struggling. That's a hard line to balance on. Then I could go on and on about the shows. We could do a whole other episode just talking about all my shows and why I love all of them or why I don't like some of them. But they all taught me something, and definitely I'm so happy. I'm so happy with my career so far. Even that it's not all happy days, but it's definitely make sure you love what you do. It's always, I mean, it's so tacky, but really make sure you love what you do. Otherwise, all these hard times would be for naught. And most teams I've worked on are such cool people. I think artists are big children. We're all in a way a big child, and it's the best part of getting to do what we do.
Definitely,
that we still get to be dreamers a bit and fantasize about, oh, you know what'd be really cool if that guy grabbed his arm and then went da-da-da, and like we're talking like we're kids talking about a game. If you work in games, I bet that's what it's like. And you're like, damn, I am mid-30s now. I am a mother, and I just got really excited about this guy's head being blown off. Like, and that's okay because you chose the right industry. You're among friends.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Yeah, can you share any advice for people looking to be animators, as well as maybe after that some advice for transitioning artists into a maternal role, if possible?
Yeah. I mean, the best advice, I bet there's so much good advice, better than like people with much more wisdom than me. But from my humble experience, don't be. All right, so I'll start with if you want to get into animation, first of all, tell everyone you want to be an animator. We can't read your minds. And secondly, look at animation reels that. What I used to do, a little trick I used to do is, on LinkedIn, people would be like, "Oh, I just got this job," and you'd all congratulate, "Well done, you're starting a new role as an animator at Framestore or something," and you'd be like, "Yes, mates, get in," and I would straight away go look at their showreel, because that's the showreel that got them that job. Do you know what I mean? And that is something I would do when people celebrate that they got a new job and it's a junior role, like. Don't shoot for if a senior just got a job and you look at his reel, you will cry. You will never do this. Like you're not there yet, mate, and that's okay. Stay in your lane for a bit. If a junior artist just got a junior role and you are a junior artist, straight away look at his reel or her reel. That's what got them the job. So what did they show that your reel doesn't? What and straight away start working on that. Also, I used to ask people why I didn't get the job, which hurts. I know. Okay, bite that bullet. Why didn't I get the job? And they'd be like, "Oh, do you know what, your mechanics just weren't there." And so I would go and I went and did a course purely on mechanics, nothing else. Don't jump ahead to lip sync before you can walk. Even though lip sync is really fun and I can totally understand, don't take the fun out of your life. If you want to do a lip sync for fun, do it. Maybe not put it on your reel until you've had someone look at it and advise you on how to make it stronger. And don't be afraid to show people your work, because I used to think it was so weird. I wanted to be an animator, but I was kind of embarrassed of my reel. And if I could just go back and tell myself, it's cool. Like, not everyone starts off amazing. There are some people around like that. They are the golden children. And that's okay too. But not everyone starts off amazing. So it's cool. Learn what you got to get better at. And everyone can get better at things. I know you might be there like, I've been struggling with weight for a long time, as in waiting, not my own weight, waiting in animation, and I struggled for so long. People tried to show me, I read all the books, I watched tutorials, and then you know what, I had one mentor who just put it in a way that I totally got it, like everything snapped, and I was like, oh, weight is still hard. Like, don't think that senior animators are there like, oh, it's cool, I know how to do everything now, so this will be fine. It's all learning for them as well. If it's a creature they've never animated before, they will go do their research, do their reference. If it's flight and they've never done a bird flying or whatever, trust me, they are doing their research. They're not going in cocky. And so it's okay for you to do the same as a junior. Learn, do your research, do loads of test shots for yourself, not necessarily to show a company, maybe to show a mentor or someone online. I have had students reach out to me, can you have a look at my reel? And I'm really I try to be really thinking about it, because I'm not a senior and I'm not a lead animator and I'm not a supervisor, so I am not hiring you. I'm not the person who hires you. But I always go, if it was my reel, I take that shot out because it's hurting your reel. Sometimes we want to put everything on our reels, and I totally remember that feeling, because you're so proud of everything you've done, and that's awesome. Be proud of everything you've done, but remember, this is if you're going to a party and you want to look good, you don't put on all your best clothes. You pick that one, what's the strongest black dress you can wear that's gonna I'm sorry to use that analogy, but it's true. You're not gonna put on all your best clothes for that party, but you're gonna choose your what's the this is the best of the best, guys. This is the best of me you're getting. That's what you got to show them, because they're looking at so many reels, they get bored. And it's understandable. It sounds so harsh when you're applying, like they got bored, like that. How dare they not respect my hours of work? you know, but you know, they see a lot, and it's understandable. So you've really got to pack a punch with your showreel, and I bet people are so tired of hearing that, but unfortunately it is what it is, guys. That's what you got to do. And it's when I fixed up and looked at my work and I was like, this is not good enough. And it, you know, without being too emotional and sad and attached to it, I was like, okay, if this isn't good enough, let's get stuff that's good enough. Let's peel back on that pride, and I'm going to go ask people what I should do. Even people who maybe were younger than me, but their animation was amazing. You know, don't have that pride of like, oh, I graduated. But none of that. Like, if someone's really good at something and you want to be as good as they are, ask them how they did it. As simple as that.
Yeah.
Doesn't, and then if you're transitioning, as in you're an artist and the world's going great, you're working on show after show, life is good, but you're thinking about having a baby, that's totally fine. Also remember, you know, making a baby takes 9 to 10 months. They say 9, mine took 10 months. So making a baby takes 9 to 10 months, and in that time you are still working on shows, you are still building that strong reel. Remember the 26-week rule. If you want maternity leave from the company you are working at, notify them that you're pregnant when you feel comfortable, and also when it's just, you know, don't be ridiculous. Like, if it's showing, it's showing. And just know that you can come back to work when you feel you're ready. Obviously, finances, let's be real, are a concern. So if you need to come back because of that, that's okay, and you'll make it work. And you're not a bad parent. There was a lot of guilting from other parents when I decided to come back. None of them artists. So none of them could understand where we're coming from, and they couldn't understand, like, they didn't want to go back to work. My other mum friends, they were like, how can I juice this more, man? How can I stay with my baby? And that's fine too. You love your child. Like, when this little human being is in your arms, you can't imagine leaving them and stuff, but it's not leaving them. And I mean, for me personally, it was more that I don't want to have any sort of resentment towards being a mother, and if my career suffered, then I might go down that road, and I definitely don't want that. It's not my daughter's fault. That it was definitely take responsibility. I made this child, so I'm going to make this work my way, which is how I did it, and which is how I try to go about being a mother and an artist now. I'm doing it all my way. I'm just honest about it. I work hard at both jobs. I also rest. I don't work when they're like, does anyone want to work this weekend, when it's not needed, like it might not be, they're just like testing the waters to see, like, maybe if you want to come in and, you know, catch up on your work. I usually always say no. I used to be really nervous about saying no to production, and now I really am not. I always get my work done. Make sure you're one of those people. Always get it done. You do become more efficient as a parent, so don't worry about returning to work and like not being able to manage. Obviously, there's a bit of easing back in time. Maybe you forgot how long dailies can go on for or something. Maybe you're not ready for that. But otherwise, there's loads of other parents around now. And I'm sure they are so willing. I am. If you were working with me and you'd be like, man, I'm having a hard week. Tell me about it. Come, like, seriously, we can talk. I've had hard weeks. It's not all. I know I come off as like a really rosy person. I have bad weeks. I have bad weeks where I'm like, nothing worked out. I'm not good at anything, you know. And then that's because we're human too, and you have to laugh at yourself. You really have to laugh at yourself as a parent. Like, I went into work with like vomit on my jumper. Guys, this is it. Take me as I am, you know. I cannot fight. The child needed to vomit. I missed that there was a bit in my hair. It's no shame. It's no shame after having a kid. You're like, it's what needed to be done. So the transitioning part is leaving for maternity leave. It depends on you as an individual. I found it difficult to not. I've always been working since I was 17. I've never not had a job. Never taken time out. Like, people were like, take this time, and wow, that was hard for me. Maybe you had different experiences that mean that you will actually handle maternity leave better than I did emotionally, and maybe returning to work will be harder for you than it was for me, whereas I was like, yes, get me on that show. Like I was so ready to like get back in, like put me in knee deep, guys, knee deep. You know, like I don't want the shallow waters and all of that stuff. So it really depends on the individual, but just know that there's someone relatable to you in each situation. You'll be fine. But yeah, I think also don't stress as much as you might, because loads more people understand than you think. I think it's harder to imagine when you're a young artist. As you get older, you're kind of, I'm not even that old, by the by. I keep talking like I'm some aged, wizened old, you know, lady in a forest giving you all my best wisdom. But no, I'm not. But you really do start, I think, you need to realize what your priorities are, and once you're really honest with yourself about that, stuff works out. Be honest with people. You still signed a contract, you still got shots to do, so you got to be real about that as well. If you're struggling, talk to someone. Simple as. Sometimes I know it doesn't sound simple when you're in that situation, but it really can be simpler than you think. And I think post-pandemic, companies are being so flexible and understanding, and they really want to make sure we're okay. Maybe not all of them. I can't speak for all companies. The ones that I've worked with through the pandemic have been good. And if they're not being good to you, maybe question that. You know, maybe that's a bad company and it's not you. It's not your situation. You know, there might be better out there. So it really is hard to sort of generalize that sort of advice, because everyone is so different. But you know, it's really fun being a parent in VFX. It's my daughter couldn't give a damn about what I do. I'm here going like, this is a cool job, right? I'm there talking to her like, this is cool, and she's like, Mom, I want to watch something, or I want a snack. She's like, really doesn't care. So don't worry about all that stuff. It's really cool. It's also really cool if you you know, don't want to be a parent, and that's fine. There's a lot of that pressure on women. For a long time I said I didn't want to be a parent, and I changed my mind, and that's fine too. So as long as, like you said, there is a bit of a biology clock, there's a bit of a time limit for you as women. Unfortunately, men can keep making babies right into their 60s. You guys are good, like, you know. But you know, yeah, you do have to get to a certain point of life where you have to ask yourself some serious questions. It is okay to change your mind. I just wouldn't be so harsh on yourself about any of this stuff. I mean, it's life, and you are not the first. Every time you're like, nothing like this has happened to anyone. It has, honey, and you can go ask about it, and it's totally fine. And most people I know are so willing to help. And you know, if you want advice, they won't judge you. We're all learning. I'm still here, like, you know, my child is only 4. We should be speaking to the parents with the teenage kids. Because they've got a whole host of different problems that I don't understand yet. Who the hell am I to advise on that sort of stuff, you know? So all I can do is speak from my experience. I think I had quite the unique situation in changing jobs midway pregnancy, changing departments midway pregnancy, and it worked out. It's really cool, and I'm so grateful for all the companies I've worked for. Everyone has helped me on my journey, but you also have to commend yourself, because we do have to do a lot of extra work to improve. A lot of people do extra courses. A lot of people do Python courses on the side just to improve their, maybe they want to make some tools for Maya, you know, maybe they don't want to be a coder at all, but they just want to get better at, you know. So we really have to commend ourselves. If you work that hard, you obviously really care about this fun industry, hard industry. That's why I tell people, it's like, it's such a great job. I love my job so much. I love what I do. I don't lie to anyone about it. It's not easy. It's not easy in the least. I mean, yeah, you have easy days, hard days, but I mean, it's not easy. So you definitely make sure you've got the passion to back up the hours you're about to put in.
Sure.
And it's totally manageable as a parent for anyone who thinks it might not be. It really is. And I've worked on big shows, little shows, all of them as a parent, and I've been fine. So good luck to everyone. Good luck, and reach out. I mean, I don't mind. I talk to a lot of students on LinkedIn who reach out to me.
Amazing,
and I'm totally happy to, because I just see that as a compliment. Wow, you think I'm something? You're like, me, little girl from Camden? What? You know.
That's great.
So, you know, most people are so willing to talk, and there's so many. Also, I didn't even bring up all the, you know, you got like FMX.
Yeah.
Now you got Spark. You've got so many things to get involved with. But you don't even have to be an artist yet. You can just want to be an artist, and you are welcome there, because we want more artists in the industry. Right now we want a lot more artists in the industry. So like, we are so happy to talk to people. If you're not at a stage where you think, oh, my reel's not strong enough, let's talk. What can you do to make your reel stronger? There's loads of courses as well. There's loads of people who offer their time, maybe for a price, some people, but that's okay too. We've got bills to pay, and you know, we do have knowledge, so sometimes we have to monetize that knowledge. So that's up to you how much you're willing. If you are someone who's like, look, I really can't afford a tutor, a mentor, or to do a workshop, that's all right. You know, I had to stop and save up for that stuff. I couldn't just afford it, and my parents don't have that kind of money. Find your way around it. You might have to go a different route. That's all. And see it like that. No one will judge you for that different route. But definitely, there's so many webinars. There are so much free tutorials now that I didn't have. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? People are just throwing knowledge at you, just like stuffing it down your throat. Take it. The internet right now is so good for people who want to be self-taught. You know, it's a really cool time. And then the work from home, making it that you don't have to even maybe live in London. I'm from London, so I'm stuck here, guys. But like, maybe you come from Coventry and you really want to stay there because you love your neighbors or whatever. That's maybe an option for you now. Look into it. Not every company. So I have to give you that byline. Like, not every company. Again, do your research. Can you tailor your reel and your application and your needs to a certain company? Look into it. All the information is out there. If you want to be a freelancer for a bit, that's cool too. And again, when it comes to stuff like I want to be a parent and a freelancer, luckily in the UK, I can't speak for other countries, but in the UK, we do have certain things that can help us out. You can get maternity leave as a freelancer. And it's not a company's maternity leave, it's the government's. And so, yeah, I would just do your research. So much information out there. Talk to people, go to these big events, go to these company meetups, you know, where recruiters just want to chat to you. Really go to those things and don't be shy. Like, the recruiters are gagging to talk to you as well. They want to know what you want to do, and they can be really helpful. But on top of recruiters, I do insist people talk to actual artists, because obviously we're coming from different perspectives. And as an artist, we can tell you how we did it, and it might suit your background a bit more. Like, if you see yourself, I went to Ravensbourne too. Like, you know, there's just that immediate little connection. And or maybe you find someone who's from your country or from your area even. You know, there's so many things that can connect people. And but recruiters are there as well for a reason, and they have a lot of very valuable information for you. Take it all, is my advice. Take all the advice. Take everything online.
Amazing. All right, amazing. I mean, you've shared so much value, and
I hope so. They're like, if anyone else, I might get friends calling me like, why did you say that? Like, and I'm really like, I hope I just gave good advice. Definitely. I'm also trying to be really diplomatic about it, and you know, not everyone's going to have a similar story to me.
Of course.
I am but one woman. You know.
But thank you so much for sharing and being so open and sharing your
You're super
journey.
welcome. I really hope it is of some use to someone out there. If I have helped one person, I'll be so chuffed.
Definitely.
So
awesome.